Jeannie's not my lover. She's just a girl, yeah. She thinks I'm the one, but she is not my type.
Hey gang! Okay, so for my first thing back, I wanted to first let you know that I got a new microphone. So hopefully the sound quality is going to be a little bit better in this video here. Yeah. Also, so for my second thing of the year, I thought I would do a little bit of story. Just tell you a little story about my life. Just because I think that would be interesting. It's going to be fun. I don't care what you say, I'm going to make it anyway. So, when I was younger, I was in the Boy Scouts with all the salutes and the whatnot. And so, every month in the Boy Scouts, this was between like 4th grade and end of high school. So every month, 1 weekend a month, we would go out and camp. We'd go camping and do a lot of different things. So this was pretty early in my scouting career. And there was a camp out. And of course, I loved the camp out part. It was the best part of Boy Scout. It was so much fun. So I signed up for the camp out, of course, not realizing really what it is before anybody's explained it to me. So I signed up, like, yeah, I want to go on this camp out. I learned later that the whole point of the camp out is to go biking. I didn't own a bike. I'd never learned how to ride a bike. So I just signed out for a camp out that I couldn't do anything at. Fortunately for me, however, there was one other person who didn't own a bike in the troop, and he was in charge, so he sort of had to go. So my dad said, "Oh, come on, come anyway, it'll be fun." I'll be like, okay. So we go to the camp out, and I'm told that we're camping by a lake. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll bring my fishing rod. So I get my fishing rod, I get all my lures, we buy some bait, and we head out to the camp out. And then the next morning when we arrive, everybody goes out biking, except for me, my father, and Trey, the guy who was in charge. So we go back to the lake with our fishing rods, and we start fishing. We're having a good time, catching some fish, not catching a lot of fish, but just having a fun time. At one point, I actually catch a fish. It's a little sunfish. It's only about yay big, but it was exciting for me. I caught a fish. It was really fun. So I was like, yeah. And so I catch that fish. I reel it in. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And I let it back go again. I then coil up my rod. I get ready to cast again. I click the button, and I cast it forward, and then the unthinkable happens. The reel breaks off of my rod. Unbeknownst to me, I kept my fishing rod in my garage with a whole bunch of other stuff, and it was sitting on a shelf. On the shelf above it, there was some sort of cleaning fluid or some sort of defrosting fluid or something. And at some point in the past couple of months that my fishing rod had been sitting there, it had been tipped over and spilled all over my rod. And apparently, the fluid that was inside this canister doesn't really agree with plastic and adhesive. So it just ate right through where my rod connected to the reel and just broke apart. And I was sitting there just distraught with these two pieces in my hands. I'm like, I wanted to go fishing. And so my dad says, not to worry, it's okay. We'll be able to fix it. So he cuts off a section of line that had become knotted up in the course of my reel breaking off, and he ties it to the end of the rod, which is now basically just a stick with some line on the end of it and a hook. That's when things get interesting, because I start catching fish after fish after fish, because my line doesn't extend very far, it just comes up pretty close to the shore, but apparently that's where all of the fish go. So I'm catching all of these fish, so many fish, and I then decide, for some reason, my young, 6th grade mind decides, you know what, I think maybe I should move, give the other guys a chance to catch some fish. So I change positions. I move a little farther down the shore, up onto this little hill in this nice little shaded area. It's really nice. And so I'm like, okay, I'll have some fun. And I cast down my line. And so I'm just sitting there waiting for a bite. And I feel a tug. And now this tug was really odd. It didn't quite feel like a fish tugging on my line. So I'm like, okay, I pull in, and suddenly the tug stops. And I finally pull out my line, and part of my worm is gone. I'm like, huh? So I cast again. Nearish the same spot. And I feel a very sharp tug, really hard, like a really hard tug. I'm like, pull! And I see someone stick out of the water. It's not a fish. It's just a little bulb. And then suddenly the tug stops, and I fall on my butt. And I look out, and there's this little head sticking out of the water. Apparently, a box turtle had been swimming around in the lake and had seen my worm and decided I want some lunch. And so then, after I'd taken its lunch away from it, it just stuck its head out of the water and just looked at me like, I want my worm. And I'm like, whatever, man, whatever. So I cast out again. As I cast, I accidentally hit this little turtley guy on the head with my hook. And he just sort of shakes his head back and forth and looks at me again like he's angry, like, give me my worm. And so I'm like, whatever, man. So I cast again, I miss him, the head disappears. I feel a sharp tug again, I'm like, the whole freaking turtle comes up out of the water, legs flailing, and then it lets go and drops back into the water and just looks at me like, yeah, that's right. I look at the line, I look at the hook, the worm's completely gone. I hadn't caught the turtle, it had eaten my worm. This turtle had just eaten my worm away. So that was the story of how I almost caught a turtle. So this is a little new thing for me, and I just wanted to see what you guys thought of it. So, like, favorite, subscribe, do whatever you want.
Give me validation.
I just make videos for the fun of it, but tell me what you like. If you like this, then send a comment my way saying if you liked it.
Give me validation.
If you didn't, I'll try and make other things.
I need validation.
So, I think that's signing out right here, guys. See you next time.